This is the human side of the story. May 27th, even though we're not doing this date in history, special day for you because it was the conclusion of one of the great series in NHL history and certainly one of the great games, the double overtime goal by Stéphane Matteau, the second of the series, because he also had one in game 3. And the emotion that came out in you after that one ended, we covered in our 5-part series that we did on the Rangers' 30th anniversary a year ago. But when you wake up on May 27th, does this date still ring big for you?
You know, not like June 14th. When I wake up on June 14th every year, I get texts from people. I send out texts, and that's the biggest day. I think that Stéphane Matteau himself has tried to patent May 27th, the date. He's tried to make it a registered trademark for himself. But nonetheless, that day made Steph Matteau's whole life. I tell you, he's that has followed him around in a very positive way.
I have a story that I'd like to share with you and our listeners because it's one of these unique happenstance things that occurs maybe during the course of life, chance encounters, things of that nature. That game was played on a Friday night, and the Stanley Cup final did not open until Tuesday. And so after packing my things for what would turn out to be roughly a 2.5-week sojourn back and forth across the continent between New York and Vancouver, made my way down from Bristol to make a quick visit with my folks and have dinner with them at a restaurant in Teaneck, New Jersey, which is the town I was brought up in. And it was a tiny little Italian place. And we sat down, had dinner, and of course, basking in the glow, as Ranger fans, as all of us were, of Game 7, talking about the excitement of the final and potential that the 54-year drought was going to end. And this was a dark restaurant, dim lighting, and off to the side, I noticed a gentleman looking over at us, kind of taking in our conversation. And because of the lighting, couldn't initially make him out. And then after a little bit of time, I finally looked at my folks and I said, "Oh God, do you know who that is?" And they said, "No, that's Larry Robinson listening in on our conversation." And Robinson, of course, was the longtime Hall of Fame defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens, and then later on played with the LA Kings. But he was also Jacques Lemaire's assistant for the Devils. And because he had taken enough interest in our conversation, I felt I had to go up and introduce myself as having worked for ESPN, but I was a Ranger fan. And I had a little bit of small talk with him and then invited him over to have dessert with my folks. And I wasn't sure if he would say yes or no. He got up, came over, and wouldn't you know it, he spent 45 minutes with us talking about the series, talking about the Devils, talking about the Canadiens, talking about Scotty Bowman. And it was just one of those encounters that you never forget. And 31 years later, that is a story that I just love sharing with people.
It's a great story. It really is a great story. And you think about the date, that it was right after this horrible loss that the Devils had taken, and when they thought they were on their way to the Stanley Cup. And, to be that generous with his time and his mood, that's a great story, and one that it sort of also reflects on the nature of hockey players, doesn't it? Like they're that kind of people. They're, you take the wins and the losses, they're going to come. You're going to lose, you're going to win, and you got to be able to take it that there's Ranger fans sitting across from you, and that's just that they're Ranger fans. They're not bad people. They're Ranger fans. So, no, that's a great story, Vic.
But it doesn't end there, because in its way, I was somewhat even pulling for the Devils the next year, just because Robinson had been so gracious with his time, gracious to my parents. And the following June, the Devils were meeting the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup final. And before game one, day of game skates taking place, he's sitting up in the stands. He's got a group of reporters around him. And I'm kind of standing off in the distance waiting for the group to disperse. And I approach him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but a year ago after the Rangers Devils series, you had sat down and had dessert with me and my folks. He says, oh my God, of course I remember that. Just the other day, I was telling a group of people about that meeting that I had with you and your parents. And so he remembered it. I wished him luck. Fast forward to the end of the series, which was a 4-game sweep by New Jersey. And I went downstairs quickly and quickly saw him heading on his way out, literally 20 minutes after the cup was won, gave him a quick wave, gave me a thumbs up, and on his way with briefcase in hand. And it was just remarkable that Canadians were so used to winning that this was just another championship for him. So that kind of brings that story just full circle and something I'll always remember.
And the commonality that I have with Larry Robinson, which isn't a close bond, but he played for the Brockville Braves, and I played for the Brockville Braves, albeit in different eras. But he was the most famous Brockville Brave, and so great story about seeing him. And you're right, the Canadiens, the Montreal Canadiens, are so used to winning that they take it as just another day at the office.
And that it was.
Thanks for joining us on the NHL Wraparound podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all the NHL action.